Well, good morning, everybody, to our Saturday morning weekly webinar. And my name is Judy Feldhausen, and I'm co-hosting today with my good friend, Bob Wischmeier. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning to you too, Judy.
We're so excited to continue on our series with Simon Sinek's Start with Why, and really doing a deep dive into this book. If any of you have read the book, you know that there's a lot of thought involved with a bunch of feeling, and sometimes that can get confusing. So we're here to deep dive into it and to just kind of open up the doors, open up your mind, and really open up your gut, which, in synergy is very important. Gut health is part of overall health. And it is so true when we talk about starting with why.
Yeah, it's interesting, Judy, I've studied through this particular chapter several times now. I've read it and reread it, wanted to make sure that I could internalize what I was reading. And it's been an interesting thought process this last couple of weeks as I've been studying through this. I guess I'd never really thought about the biology of how we think. It's very, very interesting. So let's just jump right into it.
Absolutely, because this is biology. So I thought this was a great quote by Dr. Seuss that Simon Sinek had in the book. And so I just would like to read it here. Actually, if I can move out my cursor out of the way, then I could do a better job of it. So it says, now, the star-bellied Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-bellied Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big. They were really so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. Sneetch, my friends, you can have them for $3 each. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Something that could be so insignificant that someone would pay for. And someone actually thought of that about charging other people for the stars.
Yeah, Judy, I was looking at a photograph yesterday. Let's see, I can't even remember where I saw it, but it was a family, and there were 3 teenage girls in the picture, along with their mom and dad. And all 3 of the girls had jeans that had tears across the fronts of the jeans, that style. And the same thing came to my mind, like the Sneetches, somebody saw someone wearing a pair of jeans years ago that had a tear in the knee, and that became fashionable. Now you can sell jeans that are pre-torn. Everybody trying to fit in.
And that's so true. We all have that need to belong. And it really is true that we like people who are like us. So we do a lot of things to make that happen, to find out other people's values and their beliefs and align ourselves with them.
Well, then often the connection, the common denominator might be something as simple as, that you see, like this happened to me not too long ago. I was at the Safeway grocery store, and there was a guy looking at something, and I walked by, and we glanced at one another, and we both had a University of Montana Grizzly sweatshirt on. And so we had this instant connection. I never met this guy in my whole life. Hey, you from Montana? Yeah. You from Montana? Yeah. And we became instant friends in an aisle at the Safeway grocery store simply because we both had a sweatshirt that said University of Montana on it. But that's part of that belonging somehow, the way you connect.
That's so true, Bob. I used to, when my first network marketing job on Sunday nights, I would make phone calls. And the way I got people to talk to me was start asking them questions. And I would continue to ask them questions until something happened where we were connected. So if someone said, I moved here because it was such a family community. Oh my gosh, I've got a family too. But tell me about your family. And all of a sudden there was this instant connection. So then when I transferred over to the business part of the call, it was so much easier because I already had that personal connection with people.
Even if we just perceive that we have a common value or some kind of a common belief with someone, we tend to trust them at that point. That's really what you're saying there.
Absolutely, and that trust and that connection is it is so important. It's not because that person is maybe better than us or not as good at us or equal to us. It's that just really connection that cannot be touched. It can only be felt.
There's an interesting quote from Simon Sinek's book where he says, when a company clearly communicates their why, what they believe, and we believe what they believe, then we will sometimes go to extraordinary lengths to include those products or brands in our lives. It's not because they're better, but because they become markers or symbols of the values and the beliefs that we hold. And I think we've all found that with Synergy Worldwide. There are dozens and dozens of products on the market that are probably quite good. I'm not going to go buy arginine anywhere else in the world. I'm only going to buy my products from Synergy Worldwide. I buy into Synergy Worldwide, leave a legacy, that whole concept. So that's what happens when you buy into what someone else believes. You have a connection there, and it's strong. It's really strong.
That's so true, Bob.
Great slide.
Great slide. And, Simon Sinek talks about Martin Luther King a lot in his book. He must have really connected with him and the way that he was able to get a nation and really a world to believe what he believed.
He says, those whom we consider great leaders all have an ability to draw us close and to command our loyalty. And I think that's what the deal is with Dr. Martin Luther King. The man was amazing, but he had a dream. And how almost everyone that came in contact with him, if they had basically an open mind, embraced that dream because it was a wonderful, beautiful dream. And people walked arm in arm together. When he gave that I Have a Dream speech, it drew all kinds of people together. It was a shared value, a shared belief. It resonated with people. They felt it in their gut. And that's great leadership. When you can do that, that's great. We still talk to this day about that speech and about this great man. And it's awe-inspiring to me. I love it. I love him.
Yeah. And, we can do the same thing with our business in so many different ways. I know I talk to a lot of people every day, people that, I don't really know that I've made a connection through with LinkedIn. And, many of you know that that's how I develop my business. And when I tell people that my mission is to touch 1 million people with the concept of helping them prevent and reverse heart disease and strokes. So many of them say, well, so how can I help you? Because they connect to that mission. And it's not about nitric oxide therapy. And, it's not about Synergy Worldwide, but it is about the dream of being able to help so many people. And that's what they're connecting with.
Exactly. We brand ourselves, don't we? I don't know how many times through these years I've had a call from someone or got a message from someone who said, do you think your stuff that you sell would help my friend who has this problem, that kind of a thing. It's what happens when you brand yourself in whatever endeavor it is, but it makes that connection with people and they respond appropriately. We brand ourselves.
It really does. So I guess that's one of the things that we like to do on these webinars is to challenge ourselves to figure out what our dream is and to be able to share that, because what the product is and how it works, it's so important. It's not that it's not important, but that isn't what ties us to each other. It's those feelings.
Yeah, exactly. It's the feeling that you have, that gut feeling that you have that connects you to people. It's just like with the Apple users, and he uses that Harley Davidson. You know, I used to own a Harley. I've been riding motorcycles since I was a little kid, and you know, ride like your hair's on fire. And I had a Harley Sportster I used to ride all the time. Harley people who love that company, that American-made company, they won't ride any other kind of a motorcycle. People who use Apple computers, they won't use any other kind of computers. They're totally bought in to that whole concept of that Steve Jobs put together with regard to Apple products. So it's just how we're wired. So yeah, let's talk about the biology of that now.
Absolutely, because you know, those gut decisions feel right. And I actually have something in here that I'm not sure that I believe in, that, but Simon Sinek says, and he says gut decisions don't happen in the stomach. And with the latest research that Simon was not aware of, we're learning that our gut is our second brain. And so there really are decisions that happen in our gut, and it's the connection to our minds that help us make decisions. So I believe that it is our gut, and he believes it's the brain. But I personally think that he just wasn't aware of he didn't know about this latest research.
I thought the same thing when I read this. I thought, well, Simon Sinek wrote this book before we had all of this latest information. Yeah, the gut-brain connection is really strong.
Right. So whether it's wherever it is in the body, whether it's in the gut or if it's in the brain, there is that area of our bodies that really talk about that power of why. It's the feeling of the power of why. And if you look at the golden circle, so golden circle, Simon Sinek has the what of the product or what you're talking about as the outside, the how in the center, and then the why in the middle. And he's actually looking at what he calls the limbic brain and the neocortex. So the neocortex is really the rational and analytical thought in our brain where there's language, but in that inner circle, that limbic brain, it's really more about trust and loyalty, and where we make decisions not based on the facts, because it really has no capacity for language. When you're talking about someone that is having a great meal. We just had Thanksgiving, and we went to somewhere. We shared a dinner with someone. We had company over in some cases not, but it's the feeling that we had from that dinner. When you talk about, oh yeah, it was a great dinner, we had turkey and gravy and stuffing and cranberries and sweet potatoes and everything else, it was a great dinner. Was that really what made it great? Or is it the feeling that we had when we were able to share with the people we love and be able to have discussions around that? I mean, I've been to meals I haven't necessarily enjoyed because it's not my style of food, but I still had a great time, and it was because of the feelings that were invoked in me when I was with the people that I could connect with.
I think Simon Sinek made a really interesting comment. He says, when we communicate what we do first, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like facts and features, but it does not drive behavior. That's that neocortex part of your brain. You can understand all kinds of odds and ends and facts and features and everything else, but it doesn't come from your gut. When we communicate from the inside out, or that limbic brain, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls decision making. And our language part of the brain allows us to rationalize those decisions. It's so often, you'll have to make a decision about something, and all the facts and all the details say you need to go right. But in the limbic brain, that part of your thought process says, no, my gut says I need to do this other thing. And it's that limbic brain, that part of your thought process that leads you away from facts and features. And that's not always the best thing, but oftentimes that's the right way to move with something. That's how innovation happens. That's how exploration happens. It's by virtue of being able to put the facts to one side for a minute and go with really how you're feeling. And all of us have experienced that, Judy, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we go back to me telling people that I want to reach 1 million people, that's my why. The response as always is, how can I help? That's the how. And then we go into what can be done. So it's starting from the inside out rather than the outside in. I remember when I used to say, I have nitric oxide therapy and it helps the endothelium, and all of a sudden people's eyes would glaze over. But when I start with the why, they're more interested in learning about the what.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly right. The limbic brain is powerful enough to drive behavior. And oftentimes contradicts our rational and analytical understanding of a situation. We trust our gut, even when it flies in the face of all of the facts and features. We know that. We get that. It's really an interesting chapter in this book. I'd never really thought of how it is or why it is I make the decisions that I do. But I've learned through the years to go with my gut when I'm facing a situation that I'm not quite sure what to do. I rely on that.
Absolutely. And I'm the same way, Bob.
Yeah.
So this part of the book really got me thinking. I think this part of the book just had me going, oh yeah, because the story about Henry Ford and asking people what they wanted, in transportation, and if he had done that, which I don't think he ever did, but if he had done that, the answer would always say, I want a faster horse. I want a better horse. I want a horse that, doesn't tire. And I want a horse that I don't have to feed all the time. And I want, this is what I want. I want this horse. And in reality, he didn't give anyone a better horse. What he did is he invented the Model A.
It's an amazing thing. I keep thinking about this part of the book and how some people just have that ability to see things beyond. It's like this genius of great leadership. They see what we don't see. They're people who simply their minds are just so much bigger or more open or whatever it is. They can see things that we can't see. And that's how innovation happens. And it's awesome. It's just like John Kennedy when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you." That statement from John Kennedy came at a very difficult time in our country's history. But people bought it. People bought into it.
And acted on it.
And acted on it. Yeah, that's right. It was a statement. He won the hearts and the minds of the people. They accepted that challenge. And it's a beautiful challenge. And it's a challenge that we should be adhering to and embracing today.
Yeah. And there's all those times when people say, well, just, write a list and put the reasons you want to on one side and the reasons you don't want to on the other side, and just make a decision based on how much stuff you had, right, on one side of the list. If it has more things, then that must be the better decision. When in reality, what is the weight of that? If someone wants to take a new job in a different state and they want to know whether they should do that or not, and there's all these reasons on why they should be, money and the destination and all those other practical things, and on the other side is one thing: family. And where would most people make the decision? With, of course, the family, because that has so much weight and it's so much in their hearts and in their guts.
Yeah, we talk about the pros and cons, don't we? We make those lists. We try to decide how to do things. We have one of our sons, James, was living in Cabot, Arkansas, running a company there. And the company offered him a position in Louisville, Kentucky, way more money, on and on. And poor James, we just struggled right along with him as he tried to make the decision what to do, because he had a beautiful home there in Arkansas and a good job. And but the company wanted him to go to Louisville, Kentucky. And we just agonized with him over making that decision. And he finally came up with, what he felt was the right thing to do. And they went for it. My heart just ached for that poor boy as he struggled through that, weighing out all the pros and the cons. And again, I'd say to him, well, but how do you feel about it, James? What's your gut feeling about this? And he weighed it all out and made the decision to move. I don't know whether he's glad he made that decision or not. I think he would rather have stayed where he was at this juncture. But it's what we do. It's those pros and cons.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about synergy and you look at the successful sales team, many people really focus on the science, but there's other people that have no idea about the science. They just say, you know what, I don't know what it does, but it makes me feel better. Do you want some? And people buy.
Yeah. Well, and then there are those people who just focus on network marketing. It doesn't matter what you're selling, get into this early and fast and hard, and you're going to make some money. I just hate that approach. It does not resonate with this man.
Yeah. And, it's that's so true about people and going to the why. And those people usually end up having a short-lived success.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I love this this slide because it reminded me when I talked about this part, read about this part of the book, I actually thought of when I was a kid and I would read Highlights magazine. And I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever read Highlights magazine, but one of my favorite parts was the hidden pictures and trying to find those hidden pictures inside that the drawing every single month. That's the first place that I ever went to. And it really shows that it's really what you can't see that matters. And that reminds me actually of a part in the book when they were talking about laundry soap. And if I could just share that, they actually asked women, I would imagine, what they wanted in a good laundry soap. And the answers all came back. Everyone said they wanted whiter whites. So that's what manufacturers started doing. They really showed how they use their additives, adding protein to get rid of the dirt to make it whiter. They used color enhancers, all these little things in the commercials to really make whiter whites. But years later, after much research, they really discovered that, nobody really compared their whites from one white to another. That's not what they were looking for, but they smelled the clothes when they came out of the dryer. And
isn't it great? An assumption led an entire industry down the wrong road.
Exactly. And so it was that smell, that feeling they got when they had clean clothes. And recently I just saw an ad on television that said that your clean clothes are going to smell clean for a week, even after you wear them. Now that's really getting into that limbic brain, right? Now, I don't know if I don't know what kind of additives they're using to make that stuff smell clean for a week. That scares me. But they're really focusing on the feelings and, that those emotions that you get when you have clean clothes.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. It isn't really logic or facts, all the details, but it's our hopes and dreams, our hearts and our guts that really drive us to try new things. It's how we feel about things. And that's that limbic brain overriding our neocortex thought, facts and features and all of that kind of stuff. It's that inner feeling that you have that, no, I want to try something new. I want to do something different here. I was in a situation in 1989, and we had decided we were going to split up our company. I had a business partner in Montana, and we'd invested a lot into the business that we had there. And I had this really strong gut feeling that it was time for Bonnie and I to do something different. Well, that was 1989. I had 5 little kids. I had, my little ranch. I had a farm operation over here in Idaho, and but I had to put food on the table every day I had a big family and a beautiful home there in Montana. And, but my gut said, make the change, do this thing. And as difficult, it didn't make any sense really. I mean, I had a rock solid business and a good future, but the decision was, no, let's go. Let's have this adventure. Let's do this new thing. And so I sold my interest in the company back to my partner, and we took off. Interestingly enough, that business burnt to the ground in 1997. The business caught on fire and burnt to the ground. And of course, we'd been out of it since 1989. It was almost an illogical decision for us to pick up with all of those little children of ours and move, out to North Idaho to tackle a big project here on our farm operation. But it resonated. It was the right thing to do. That's that limbic brain that comes in. It really kind of overpowers all the details, takes you in a different direction. We've never regretted it for a day. We've followed our heart, if you will, and it turned out great.
That's so wonderful, and I can just feel the openness and the openness that you obtained in your life because of that decision.
Yeah, it was great. We eventually went back to Montana after we came out and rebuilt this old farmhouse and did a bunch of things. Then we went back to Montana. We kept our properties there and lived there until we got the kids raised, and then we came back over here. It's just all worked out well. Again, not always logical, but when you follow your gut, that limbic brain, it makes all the difference in the world. It sort of comes from the heart, if you will, at that juncture.
Yeah, I totally agree. So to close, there's a quote there, Bob, that would you like to end with that quote?
Which one? Products?
Yes.
Yeah. Products with a clear sense of why give people a way to tell the outside world who they are and what they believe. Remember, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If a company does not have a clear sense of why, then it's impossible for the outside world to perceive anything more than what the company does. A clear sense of why. And it does make all the difference in the world. And I know that Simon Sinek uses Harley Davidson and Apple Computer. Southwest Airlines is another example that he uses, how they've created this excuse me, underlying connection to people, why they're doing what they're doing, and people love that and they embrace that, and it sometimes flies in the face of logic. You know, Southwest Airlines convinced their people that if they were going to keep going during some very difficult times, they were going to have to cut some things back. But there's such a phenomenal airline, the employees picked that up and went with it, and you know, they took less money, they did whatever it was that they did. But they did so willingly because they bought into what Southwest Airlines was trying to do. And it's just great stuff, Judy.
And you can see the same thing happening today in businesses. I know Home Depot is going above and beyond to take care of their people because they've been working so hard. You know, that particular business is really not been affected negatively from the virus, but positively. And they recognize that their people have had a lot to do with their success, and they're increasing salaries, they're giving bonuses, and doing a lot of other things to transfer their feeling of appreciation.
Good leadership, great leadership recognizes that. These are some troubling times, everybody. We had at our house, in our family, we had a very difficult 2019. I can't lie, it was tough. We had some family things that were very, very difficult to deal with. And so when Bonnie and I started January 1st of 2020, we were convinced that 2020 was going to be a much better year. We weren't going to lose anybody in 2020. And here we are, coming to the end of 2020. I have another sister who's dying of cancer as we speak. And this has been the weirdest year in the history of our country, I think, well, at least in the almost 69 years that I've been on the planet. And 2020 was not the kind of year that we had hoped for. We're going to go into 2021 here shortly, and I got a feeling it's going to be just as tough as 2020 was. But at the same time, I think every day it's really, really important for us to count our blessings before we recount our problems. I think that's a good way to look at it, that we are lucky. We have a great business with Synergy Worldwide. They're not going anywhere. We have products that are just outstanding. You can't buy better products. You know, we don't guess, we test, we guarantee. It's a great company, and our products work, and it's just a matter of getting the word out there and letting other people see what we see. And this is really a great time in history, if you will, for a network marketing company like ours, a multi-level marketing company, to do well. We can do things now that small businesses can't do, and we have all of those advantages. So, Judy, that's my end.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bob. And it's so important, you're right, to know the what and the how, but lead with the why.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, thanks you guys for joining us this morning. I hope we were able to share what we were hoping to share. This, it isn't our, there you go. It's not just our opinion, but it's biology that drives what we do.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Do we have any questions before we go today? You have to unmute yourself.
And I apologize for losing my train of thought a couple of times there. That's this medication that I had to take for my bad back. Sorry, Judy.
You were great, Bob, as always.
Thank you, guys. And Bob, you call it losing your trend of thought, but it's complete authenticity as far as most of us are concerned, because you make such a you make a great connection when you make it real, when you, as you say, lose your trend of thought. So we appreciate all that.
Thanks.
On the thought of synergy, and I think of when we first start with synergy or when I first started, synergy and another company, GNC, where they didn't talk about nitric oxide therapy. In fact, they sold the combination separately, the L-arginine and the L-citrulline. And I guess when the combination came about, I think with synergy, then we start to see the other manufacturers bringing about the blend, which is the nitric oxide therapy. And I would say that synergy really, to my mind, started that process. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you're sure welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Donald.
Yeah, you're sure welcome. Well, Judy, thanks so much for everything. Appreciate it. We need to take a look at the month of December, Judy, and see if there's a Saturday there that works for you. If the 26th doesn't work, we can adjust.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Dan, thanks for handling the Zoom meeting. We appreciate it very much. And I guess we'll see you all again before you know it.